And I'm Robert Slotky.
Jean Weinfeld.
I'm Bob Weinfeld.
Rosalie Cinnamon Alexander.
James R. Alexander.
Hi, I'm D.G. Bemmel.
I'm Alice Warren.
I'm Ina Rose Bogan.
I am Marlene Fisher.
My name is Babette Lipkin.
Hi, I'm Ken Glazer.
Hello, I'm Elaine Wolf.
And I am Ronald Wolf.
I am Dan Krause.
I'm Stuart Brand. I'm married to Brenda F. Brand.
I'm Brenda Brand, and I married him because I love the name Brand.
As the population moved north, Temple Emmanuel was farther and farther away. And they wanted to start something for the northern people so they wouldn't have to travel so far.
Some movers and shakers like Henry Jacobus from Temple Emmanuel put the idea out to is there interest in forming another Reformed congregation?
We were looking for something smaller, more intimate, where there could be more involvement. We weren't unhappy at Temple Emmanuel.
Henry and Maury were significant leaders in Temple Emmanuel, and they were the glue and the energy to get us going.
Before you knew it, we had set up a startup meeting. And interestingly enough, the startup meeting was in this room. Not this sofa, but in this spot. A different sofa on this spot is where we sat and around in the room.
Our first get-together was at a Federal and Savings down on Royal Lane at Preston Road, and we put together a group who was willing to work and do things, and because we knew that, we didn't have any money, we had to do all the labor ourselves. Somebody took their hat off and we passed it around, and we put money in the push kit. Meetings were, my God, meetings lasted until 1 o'clock in the morning, and everybody was going to meetings here and meetings there because we had so much to do.
I was fortunate enough to be elected president after Henry, and I ran a tight meeting. I wouldn't let it go till 1 in the morning,
I don't remember exactly how the name was picked. I vaguely remember the meeting, and there were a lot of names tossed about, as one would surmise. And out of that meeting, there was a consensus that the new synagogue should be named Temple Shalom.
Everyone gave their input. I remember some people being upset that their name wasn't picked, but we did have a meeting and everyone voted.
Each person took some information and a committee was formed, social action. I think I was very interested in the worship committee, and I may have been head of the worship committee at that time, I'm not sure. And with Lewis Ralph was on the worship committee as well.
Eddie Green and Henry Jacobus were trying to start this congregation. They were running into some problems, and they asked me to help them. I may have done the charter, I don't remember.
Also, Rabbi Saul Kaplan, who was the regional director of the Union, at the time it was called the Union of American Hebrew Congregations. It's now the URJ. He was the regional director stationed in Dallas, lived in Dallas, and he also was very, he was prominent in helping. Whenever we had a problem, he was there. And he came and conducted some services for us as well and gave us a lot of help and direction in doing things and how it should be done, or it could be done rather. Before you knew it, we had 200 members. I became the temple secretary, but Bob was involved, and he did most of the photography from the very beginning. All of the pictures were from Bob.
The congregation began with its first service in October of '65.
One of the members built a portable ark. We had our tour in, and we carried that from place to place.
I do remember on Friday night services coming into the church on North Haven, and within maybe 10 minutes we could convert it from a church with the church crosses and so forth into at least an acceptable place for us to hold our services.
We would then have our ownings at Kip's Big Boy, hamburgers at Gilchrist and Northwest Highway.
I was pregnant at the time with our 5th child, and Andrea, and who is a member today. Andrea and Graham Gadd and their 3 little children. I believe Andrea was the first baby named at Temple Shalom.
I think I'm right. The oldest Gerard boy was the first bar mitzvah. And I think it was when we were at, I think that Roll Lane Church. Our own son was bar mitzvah there. And Rabbi Murray Berger did his service. And it was very meaningful to us, of course. And now his son, older son, has been bar mitzvahed at Temple. And the younger one will be bar mitzvahed in August of 15. So we have a picture of Ron at his bar mitzvah and our son, and then his son.
We found a piece of land in the floodplain. The city of Dallas was doing their best to get it out of the 100-year floodplain. And so the Zale Foundation was nice enough to loan us enough money to buy it.
Remember when they bought the property and they said, oh my God, we'll never need that much property, we'll never need that much land. And I guess it was Maury Newberger said, don't worry, you'll use it, it'll be fine.
You know, where the property was picked for Temple Shalom was a beautiful forest at one time. That was
it was a pecan orchard.
pecan orchard. And it still has pecan trees there. There was, as far as I know, no issues among the neighborhood in building a Jewish congregation, as I recall, and I was not on the architectural committee at all, but they just wanted to keep the architecture in tune with the neighborhood, and that's what we basically have over there.
We were going to limit the size of the congregation to 400 families. That was so that, because we felt that that would keep it small, personal, and the type of institution we were trying to build. Of course, that went by the wayside very quickly. I think in the 2nd or 3rd year that we reached our size and felt the need to have more, but to service more people, and just there were more things we could enjoy. But the idea of it, of a 400 family congregation, was very appealing to me at the time.
There was somebody at the time who wanted to restrict the membership to a limited number of 200 maybe, or 300, make it like a country club. And he was just poo-pooed down. We're not going to be that kind of a congregation.
Well, first when we started, we said the congregation would be no larger than 600 families, ever. And never any more than one rabbi could handle. So, even though we didn't have a building then, we did want a building large enough to house up to 600 families and a lot of kids in religious school, because then there were so many little kids. There were more little people in our congregation than big. So we built a building with a big Sunday school, and for then and for the immediate future. But it grew well over 600, and I guess the more we got, the more we wanted, just like everything else.
Interesting, the several things we were so definite about, so sure of, like the size of the congregation. Also, that there were never going to be any plaques or memorial, nothing with anybody's name on it in the congregation.
The challenges were, it was new, and you had to have a place to be, and you had to have someone to help conduct the services, and you had to form a Sunday school, and you had to get teachers.
Sam Ablon became the director of education. Mike Weiner took that over a few years later.
We had Sunday school at Ursuline Academy.
I became a Sunday school teacher for a little while.
And you had to have a place to have a holiday, and you had to be busy covering up the crosses with paper or with something, so it wasn't there during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
We got a cemetery put together. Don Donovitz was our cemetery chairman, and a few of us were unfortunate enough to have lost our wives. And so the wives are buried in that cemetery in the first section. I think we even had a child buried there in the early years.
I walk in and I look at the building and I look around and see in the older parts, I remember certain things when the day they put the carpet down in the sanctuary, and the day we broke ground, and the day the property was purchased, and how were we ever going to pay for it? And should we put an elevator in? Several of us were responsible for buying the kitchen equipment, and I'd never seen a commercial mixer before. Things like this that made it mine.
I'm sure that we hired an artist who came up with the theme of doing the tree of life and the roots from the menorah going into the ark. But that goes back.
Didn't you make a Torah cover?
No, I didn't make a Torah cover. I did the needlepoint on one of the Bema chairs. So there were about 8 of us that did those, and Doris Budner she had a needle in a haystack at that time, and did the design for those. And then I think 8 of us did the chair seats and the chair backs for the Bema chairs.
We didn't have a choir per se at the beginning, but then it developed into some people wanted to sing, so they started a choir.
I sang in the choir there for a short period of time.
I feel sisterhood is really a strong backbone of the temple for what they do, participate, the way they're organized.
I helped start the Brotherhood about 3 years after the temple started. I went to the temple executive committee and proposed the idea of starting a brotherhood. Got full cooperation, and it started from there. I helped start the Brotherhood Softball League, which has been very gratifying for a lot of us. Started with 6 teams, 6 teams in 1975, and now we're up to 18 teams.
They formed many different groups, and the one that caught my eye, because as I'm getting older, I wanted to get involved with an older group, and they formed the temple Shalom Silver. They have a lot of functions. There's bingo, there's dinners, there's groups, a shoot-off of the Shalom Silver. but it gives us a place to go and things to do and to be with people our own age. And it's a lot of fun.
A rabbi once told me that reform means change, and we're always changing. It doesn't necessarily mean getting more traditional, but it does mean change. It means change. And so that's what I hope for our congregation and our people.
People had different ideas as to what it should be, whether we should do Hebrew, whether we should not do Hebrew. And somebody said, I don't think that God minds us if we say our prayers in English rather than in Hebrew. He'll understand it just as well.
I think the more you take part in the synagogue, the more you'll get out of it. And not just from Judaism, but from friendships that you get over the years.
I'm just glad that this is a temple that accepts you, whether you have a lot of money or you don't have a lot of money, that you're welcome. And they're going to do everything to make you happy. And you in turn feel that warmth and you have another home. It's like another home.
There have been changes, some of which I have loved and some of which I haven't loved. But I'm still here and I'm still paying my dues. And I guess someday someone from there will put me away.
It was kind of like giving birth to another child, really. That's what Temple Shalom was.
50 years passes too quickly. Yeah.
We love it, and we're not going to move from there.
To a land that God will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey God will bless you. And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing, Lechi lach. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me.